Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at an excellent book from Oxford University Press. It's one of their handbook series. This is the Oxford Handbook on the theory of international law. It's actually of the theory of international law. It's this book here. It's a very heavy book. You can see it's a substantial book. There's the spine. And then there's the list of all the contributors. The Oxford Handbook of the Theory of International Law, been edited by Anne Alford and Florian Hoffmann. Those are the two main editors. And then you've got a large number of people who are listed at the back. It's a heavy book. It's running to something approaching, 1,000 pages. The actual index at the back is by page numbering, not paragraph numbering. It's quite a detailed index, as you can see. I wouldn't say it's a particularly brilliant index myself, but you should be able to find what you're looking for. The dust cover has other books in the series there at the back. Then at the front it tells you a little bit about the handbook series itself and the various people who've been involved in producing the work. Now at the front of the book you've got the basic front page with the two main people, Anne Alford, Florian Hoffmann, and Martin Clark, who's not actually mentioned on the front cover, is also involved as a main contributor. Now then you get to the details. There's a nice in memory of or commemoration for, it's in memory of certain people. Then you've got a lot of actual acknowledgements because there's a huge amount of content here. And it's an international book. It's structured in that particular way. So you've got different parts. It starts off with histories, goes to approaches, then regimes and doctrines, and then finally debates. And it's got a total of 48 different pages. And what you've got for each of the chapter headings is written by a particular contributor, and obviously a great assistance depending on what you're specifically looking for. Here are the lists of cases there, and then after that you've got, and they are by international then national jurisdictions. Likewise with legislation, the same sort of thing happens there as well. Then you've got International Law Commission articles, European Union regulations, national legislation, and a note on each of the contributors. There are a large number of people involved in this publication. You can see the list. I can't go through all of the names, but there are a very large number involved. Then you see the structure, the introduction, Theorising International Law, written by Anne Alford and Florian Hoffmann, just to start it off. The practice of theorising about international law. Because theory, to a certain extent, is quite important because we have to start off with the theoretical structure and then see what actually happens. Now, having started with that, you can see how the book then develops. There are, of course, quite a large number of footnotes at the bottom to justify things. There are a certain number of chapter and subheadings throughout the book. It's a heavy book, but of course it's written in a very much the style of Oxford University Press. That's the middle of the book there, and you can get some idea of the worth of the book. Certainly to the academic community, it is primarily a legal academic text. However, I think there's a great deal on offer here for a much wider readership as well. So what do Elizabeth and I say of the book? Well, we say it's a wide-ranging overview of international legal theory from 60 international contributors. So 60 people giving us their views on what is a wide range of international law matters. This is what we say anyway. It's been recently published by OUP. It's a book which at first glance will be relevant and undoubtedly useful, mainly to scholars of international law as well as international lawyers. But hold on a minute, of course, is what we would always say. Examine it more closely and note that its contents touch on so many ancillary disciplines so that its utility and appeal will ultimately extend to a much wider readership within academia and the legal profession. And as I said, I suspect politically it's going to be interesting as well. the decision to leave Europe by Britain is going to have profound effects on everything we do. And again, I think this is an area where we will be reviewing certainly what we do in terms of our international law commitments over a long period of time. Now, the book itself, the handbook, consists of 48 learned essays by at least 60 international contributors from top universities worldwide, all acknowledged experts in their own field, and the diverse content and breadth of opinion offered by this book will, we think, certainly attract the interest of a much wider readership. So I'm not limiting it just to the legal world. I think that it's got a much wider readership, certainly philosophy and certainly political areas, and anybody doing international studies, for instance, as well. I think will find this very helpful, because we are, when you get to the top of the international sort of commentary world, if you like, trying to actually put various subjects in compartments doesn't work, because it's a much wider area that's covered. Now, in the introduction, the two main authors, Anne Alford and Florian Hoffmann, to say there is a third author, Clark, as well, but he's only actually mentioned right at the end, Martin Clark. But the two main authors focus right at the beginning in chapter 1 on theorising, which they say is an inherent part of the practice of international law. And they say, what do international lawyers think of as theory, they ask, and how does it relate to past and present practices of the discipline on the profession? How indeed? Many of the answers to this question are successfully addressed within the opinion and commentary put forward by the various contributors who individually and collectively have explored a wide variety of avenues of inquiry and approach. Along the way, much light is shed on the major themes, subject matter and debates that currently inform and underpin international law as we know it at the moment, and which continue to shape international legal theory, including its rather fascinating history as a discipline. It's an important point to remember, because I would add one other thing, and that is that international law is changing as well. As I say, you've not just got the legal content here, you've got all sorts of other things to think about too. And it is an area which is, I think, going to change again, because we've entered the globalised world, both in terms of legal practice and the way we view ourselves and our neighbours, and I do think there will be massive changes this century. The book's divided into 4 parts, labelled respectively histories, approaches, regimes and doctrines and debates. And part 1 looks back in time and across wide swathes of geography to examine, for example, Roman law and international legal theory in the Ottoman Empire, as well as in China, Russia and, interestingly, Germany, from the 17th to the 19th centuries. There's also an article on Hugo Grotius, a founding father of international law. So that will give you the setting. And obviously this is something I think anybody who is studying this as a substantive law subject for, say, the LLB or a master's will find this book very helpful. Part 2 continues an intriguingly interesting variety of political and philosophical approaches. This becomes more jurisprudential, in fact, because it includes those of Marx and Kant, but it is more political science I think we're really looking at here, frankly. But obviously there is the overlap with jurisprudence. Now, part 3, the focus then shifts to theorise over a broad spectrum of areas, from jurisdiction to international organisation, to force and intervention, to human rights, to private international law and transnational migration. So all of the current topics, agenda topics of today, are actually there. And as I've indicated before, I think this is very topical for current affairs, apart from anything else. It's not just a legal tome. Part 4 raises 5 significant areas, almost guaranteed to engender endless debate, including religion and secularism, a big subject. Co-editor Florian Hoffmann contributes an article here on international legalism and international politics. And I think what you've got here is a blend of law, jurisprudence, philosophy and politics. So the little sciences are all coming together, if I can put it that way. The sheer diversity of opinion and comment in this book is noteworthy and very welcome, I would hasten to add, and it should ideally be read and mulled over with an open mind and an objective yet critical eye. And we think researchers in particular will be appreciative of its overwhelming stock of footnotes containing almost innumerable references for further reading. A huge amount of scholastic work had gone into this, and I'd like to thank everybody involved very much. Let me conclude by saying, for scholars and law students as well as practitioners, this volume of over 1,000 pages, with its useful overview of current thinking on the theory of international law, is definitely a must-read and a worthy addition to the well-stocked professional library. And the publication date is cited at 2016. Now you gather I'm an enthusiast for this because it's the Oxford Handbook of the Theory of International Law. But it's about jurisprudence, it's about philosophy, it's about politics. And all of those things, it doesn't matter whether you put them in compartments or not, but they all bring together the basis of how we live together and what we do. For instance, in the shadow of hyperbole, two images of formalism, which I think must be very much a favourite of one of the editors, if I may put it that way, because again, they're looking at the analytical function of policy in New Haven's jurisprudence, for instance. So we've always got in this book the background of a high level of jurisprudence. We're talking of certainly above the basic first degree qualification that one's looking at, because this book is really for readers who are already holders of a bachelor's degree and are doing further reading and looking very much forward to exploring in more academic and scholastic depth some of the subjects they might have sort of covered as undergraduates. It's a great contribution. Again, Oxford University Press have produced these excellent handbooks in a whole range of areas. This is one of them. They do, in fact, in the international series mention various other handbooks which are in the back of the dust sheet. But I think this is a first-class work. It is primarily academic, but it's fascinating because we've got to see where we're going as the 21st century unfolds. Thank you anyway to everybody concerned for an excellent, very high quality book. Bye-bye.